hey, would you mind signing that for me? So
that's cool.
I've got like best directors and best actors, best actresses that have, who've won Oscars and, stuff like that. And
so you have a bright future on eBay.
yeah. Well, unfortunately, a lot of them are personalized, right? It's like two Austin. So I'm going to need.
There's a lot of Austins.
I'm going to need a buyer that's called Austin.
Welcome to KAWmedy Krow Podcast, where we put the Ka in comedy.
Welcome to another KAWmedy Krow Podcast, episode 24, with our wonderful guest, Austin Levins, right here. Give it up for Austin.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then the lovely and wonderful, wife of my life, Amy Quirk, everybody. A big round of applause for her. There you go. And I'm Christopher Keith Tyler, CKT, short. And we put the Ka in comedy. We also want to make sure we thank our 2024 Comedy Fest sponsors, Cloud Electric, Party Supplies, and Gamel Pest Control, and Guadalajara Mexican Cantina. That's where Peter puts on a lot of shows there every month. You can check out the shows there. It's on a Wednesday, usually I think it's the third or last Wednesday of every month. And you make reservations by calling them. And let's get this show started. Austin, tell us about how. There's so much to go over. I'm so excited about this. First off, you were born. You're Irish.
Yes,
correct.
Very much so.
Where in Ireland?
So I was born in Dublin, lived in Dublin most of my life, and for the last 19 years, 20 years before we moved over here, I lived in a town called Edenderry, which would have been outside of Dublin, about an hour's drive. Lovely. What started out as a country town, and then it got invaded by Dublin people like myself, and we kind of doubled the population of Edenderry pretty much in a 2-year period. And
you Dublin the population.
Yeah, very much so.
I'm Dublin. Here it comes, guys.
Here comes the puns, the bad accents.
I can't. I'm not allowed to do.
He's not allowed
accents.
to do accents.
I can't
great!
Do accents.
Great! I've had enough of those the last few nights.
Oh my god. Okay, so you were born in Ireland near Dublin, and then what made you you were like, I gotta move to the US?
No, my wife still works for Hewlett Packard, so HP, and they had a huge plant in Ireland in an area called Leixlip, which is in Kildare, just slightly out of Dublin again. And my wife was working there for well over 10 years, and pretty much overnight we just got the news that the whole plant was being shut down.
Wow.
Thousands of jobs gone or being moved elsewhere. But my wife had been dealing with the branch that she's now based out of, which is in Rancho Bernardo. She'd been dealing with them for several years, and she pretty much got told, very, very early on that, the likelihood is they're going to offer you a position out in America. But the choices were a bit different because there was, well, not that there was choices, it was the options that we saw looked like to be in Rancho Bernardo or up to Portland, and very different climates. So when push came to shove, Rancho Bernardo became the option, and I have to say to anybody who has worked for HP, that their support of their staff is second to none. I mean, they facilitated our move so generously in terms of everything that we could need advice on, for visas, everything. They always had somebody, whether it was an outside source that they contract in or whatever, but they really facilitated the move over here quite easily. And at the time, it was, I suppose, are we taking a risk or what have you? But I've always been very supportive of my wife's career because, she's really worked her way up the ladder, as they say. And I was a soccer coach back in Ireland, so football, as I would call it, but I can't use that word over here anymore.
No, you can. I think
we just get it confused with the long pigskin.
Yeah,
right.
And don't get me wrong, I love the NFL. I'm a big Giants fan, but just I coached for 19 years back in Ireland. I had done everything from grassroots right up to top level professional. Cool. I'd coached with a club called Shamrock Rovers, who'd be the Manchester United of Irish soccer, and the club I was with in Edenderry, I had been with for 12 years. I'd pretty much done every job possible in over the 12 years because I wanted as broad a CV as I could. So I knew with the qualifications that I had, that if I came over to America, with the officially credited, coaching badges that I had, that I should be able to find a club pretty easy. And that turned out to be the case with, Temecula Football Club. So
nice.
When we first came over, we were on one of those, what they call it, a recce visit, where you're looking at schools, and we'd done the Zillow stuff and all that, where can we afford to live? This is going to be, all that kind of stuff. When you look at the rents, so we had to say, okay, where's the closest to Rancho Bernardo that we can find? And even then, they brought us over on a week-long trip to look at schools, and they actually had somebody to show us around for property.
Wow,
absolutely incredible. And Temecula just started to leap out that little bit more. So I then started looking for, okay, who's the local soccer club? So I literally had like a coaching position to come out to over here before we even moved. So it was, everything just sort of fell into place,
smooth.
Yes, very much so, yeah.
And what was it that you were like, you know what? I'm going to kick it to soccer and jump into stand-up.
Yeah, what is this?
So this is from the time Chris said to me that, would you like to be on the podcast? I was like, well, you're going to get a great story with this one. So one of the projects that I was doing at Temecula Football Club was what we call the Junior Quails. So the quail is the symbol for the club. And
there's a quail. Sorry, real quick, but we have a place called Quails right down the street here in Old Town that serves Solaris beer as well. But
that is the club
wine.
I'm referring to. Yeah, that's our world headquarters, as we call it. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Oh, quite often seeing Chris going down in his green Morph uniform, down the back street here.
You saw that?
I've seen that.
Video.
Yes. And at the time,
he almost got arrested.
At the time, I hadn't actually done Solaris at that point. I was like, who is this Egypt in the green costume going down the street, not knowing it was you?
Yeah.
And then I think the second week I went to Solaris, like you had the green screen, and I'm just like, oh God, that was Chris that day.
Yeah, that's cool.
A small world. Well, because everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like, holy crap, you saw Chris before you even met him, and then now you're in the Chris zone.
Yeah,
and there's the
That's so
Morsa
cool.
right there.
Patiently waiting for your ass.
Yeah.
It won't fit me, that's for certain. So we'll knock that suggestion out the window straight away.
I wasn't thinking it, but okay.
I just thought you get ideas,
No, but go on. I apologize for cutting in there. But
No,
yeah,
you're okay.
Quail.
You're not cutting in.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so I was coaching a junior quail group, which is like 5, 6, 7-year-olds who, are literally kicking a ball for probably the first time in their lives in any sort of structured environment. And the whole idea was just let them have fun with the ball, try and help them develop technical skills, which is what part of the foot to kick the ball with, that type of thing. Build up their mechanics of how they move, everything else. And subsequently, you'd have kids who'd fall over the ball, or they'd, trip up, or they'd make a mistake. And I just found myself, instead of being like I see with a lot of coaches over here, where they can be quite critical of the kids and very harsh on them. And there is a mentality that's there from American football, is where I see the culture has sort of stepped down, because I've seen American football on the field beside us at the same time. And parents can be quite hard on the kids. And I just said, no, what I want to do is create a zone where these kids are having fun the whole time. I've done that back in Ireland with several times over. And I would often joke with the kids, or I would make a comment that the parents on the sideline would laugh rather than criticize their kid. Oh, Johnny, get up, Mary, get up.
Right.
No, I want you to have a laugh and enjoy them enjoying themselves. And it just happened that there was a twin brother and sister who I was coaching, and I didn't know at the time, but their mom was Melissa Greenberg.
Oh,
yeah.
What a trip.
Yeah, so Melissa.
Shout out to Melissa. Yeah.
Melissa's watching me, doing this week in, week out for ages, and she said to me, you really should come and do one of my workshops. I teach comedy, and I had always said, oh God, I would love to do. I've a list the length of my arm of comedians that I've loved over the years, and I'd always said, no different than doing a karaoke song. I'd love to do 5 minutes on a stage. I'd already knew what a tight 5 was, before I'd ever got into comedy. And I said, oh yeah, I'd love to get up on the stage and just do 5 minutes of making people laugh. And conversation with Melissa led to, okay, well, I'll think about it and I'll let you know. And last summer I went home to Ireland for a trip on my own, because my wife and daughter went back several times. And I literally went home to sort of say goodbye to everybody, because I just sort of said, no, America's my home now. Oh. I don't want to be coming home for a funeral or a sad occasion where that's the reason I'm back. And you don't get to enjoy people the same way because, you know, you're morose about whatever's happened. And I was invited to get up and do a speech at my old football club back in Edenderry. Did the speech, included a couple of jokes, as anybody would do making any sort of speech.
Sure.
To try and give everybody a laugh. And some people came up to me afterwards and said, "My God, I never realised you were so funny." And I was like, well, I always liked the joke, but I didn't think it was that serious. You know, I thought it was a nice guy to be around. No, you were really funny up there. And I was like, okay. So I'm on the plane coming home, and I'm just thinking to myself, maybe I'll give Alyssa a shout and try this workshop thing out. And I went in, and she works with a headliner, a national headliner called Andrew Norelli. And Andrew just said to me straight out, and you know, anybody who's watching the podcast is going to realise listening to me, my voice makes me very unique. It's not faked, you know. It's not like I've had comedians the last few nights at open
That'd be
mics
pretty badass though if it was. This whole time you've been in character. You're just some guy from Kentucky.
Dedication.
It's funny you should say that because I used to do a lot of extras work. My dad was a lighting electrician, so he would rig lights like this on film sets. And one of the films I got to work on was Far and Away. And it is by
With Tom Cruise,
absolutely
right?
no
Nicole
challenger
Kidman.
to it. It is the worst Irish accent you could ever possibly hear is what Tom Cruise does in that film. And I was 10 feet away from him when he was doing it one day, and I was like, Jesus Christ, this is terrible, you know. So, you know, people faking the Irish accent is one thing, but you know, I've come to embrace it and sort of say, okay, right, it is what makes me who I am. And you know, my earliest material was probably based on you know the differences between Irish and Americans impression of Irish people when they hear my voice and stuff that they say to me, and you know, and it was all truth. So even when it was on stage where it came across as funny to people, I was actually telling real life stories of, you know, no, this actually does happen to me, you know.
I think the sound of your accent and how your cadences are delivered, I think that actually adds to the dynamic of who you are and your stories. We don't get that. We hear each other talk and it sounds either abrasive or, you know, or I don't know, everyone makes up their own crap, but especially in America, you know, like they make up freaking words. But anyway, point is, I think that really adds to your character. And so they're so, you know, they're really in tune.
Well, it's funny you should say that because I performed up in Palm Springs recently a couple of times, and I was after finishing an open mic, and as I came out, one of the other people who'd been in the crowd, came up to me and said, "Oh God, I love your accent," you know. And I was like, you know, I've made it one of my bits now. She was a particularly good-looking girl, you know. So I was like, "Oh, thank you very much," you know. That's really nice to hear, and the whole lot. And she says, "Oh no, I loved the Irish charm. I love the Irish lilt, you know, in your voice." And then she said to me, "You could put me to sleep every night just listening to you." And I was like, that's not really what I want to hear from a good-looking woman. You know what I mean?
Hey, well, I do it for Amy every night. I'll be telling her a story, and then I can feel her twitch, and I'm like, I lost her. She's gone.
Yeah,
You could be a good Irish ASMR. That could be your new
Somebody said this to me the other night.
Yeah.
And I was like, what's an ASMR? I didn't know. I'd never heard of them. And now apparently people want to build apps to put my voice on it.
Yeah, it's actually one of the top viewed content on YouTube.
Wow.
Yeah.
ASMR content.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's like people that have OCD that enjoy like pressure washing.
Okay.
You know? Oh, well, it's so clean. It's just very similar.
Yeah. Have you got? If I was still doing the Shamrock Irish Pub and Eatery in Murrieta, like you would do great there. Like, have you got on there yet?
Yeah, everyone would shut the fuck up too.
I have a good story, which is very much true. And I was only talking about this last night with a friend of mine. I went up for what I believed was an open mic on a Tuesday. I was on the third week of the workshop that Melissa does, and I said, okay, right, I know I've got 5 minutes of material now. I want to be ballsy. I want, you know, even before the graduation show that Melissa does, I want to put myself out there and, you know, expose myself to the harsh reality of what, you know, stand-up is. Yeah. So I went up, and anybody who knows the Shamrock well would know where the service counter is for the food, that little hatch. And I'm sitting at the very last seat at the bar for it, having spoken with the bar guy. And I had said, you know, is the open mic on? And I'd rang in on the Sunday. They said, yeah, the comedy's on Tuesday night and all that. But anyway, it turns out that it was just a another show. So there was two features, and then the main act. And Johnny Herrera obviously is the host up there at the moment, and he got up and he was doing a set, and he started to work the room as he does, and he started asking people questions about, you know, their marriage and how long were they married, and, you know, what do you think is the key to success with your marriage and all that. And he's worked his way the whole way around, and I thought, because I was so far advanced up at the bar, he was actually out further into the crowd from me, so he was having to look over his shoulder to look at me. And I sit sort of widespread like this quite often on a bar stool, you know, and he looks across and he goes, oh, look at this guy, he's obviously confident. Ladies, what do you think about this, you know? And he could see the wedding ring, and he says, oh, he says, you're married? And I went, yeah. And he goes, where's your wife? And I said, she's not here tonight. He says, well, why isn't your wife here with you? And I said, oh, I came for what I thought was an open mic. And he goes, oh, you're a comedian? And I said, well, I'm trying to be. And he goes, you got a set? And I was just like, challenge accepted. You know? It was like a video game, challenge accepted. And I got up.
Nice.
I'm 6'3". I'm 6'3".
Yeah.
You know the stage.
The stage is like 3 feet high.
Yeah, it's really high up, but the lighting rig is really low, and I couldn't see anybody. All I could see was these lights. So Johnny started out on my left, and he said, "I'll light you on 4. Perfect, great, exactly the way it's supposed to go." I'm up, and I'm like, I'm starting to sweat now. It's like 6 minutes in.
Right.
Crowd are loving me because I'm Irish, in an Irish bar,
right.
drinking a Guinness at the time.
Yeah.
All the staff are walking past the front and say, oh, wow, you're fantastic.
Your dream come true to
This
them.
is like...
Yeah, they're so happy.
This is just... They've just handed me the, you know, the lot.
Immediately they love you.
Yeah. And
it's rare.
Yes. That's what I've learned that since. But I got up and I ended up doing 8 minutes.
Nice.
Not realising I exhausted every joke I'd ever written at that point. And Johnny just looked at me, you know, as he was getting the microphone back, and he was saying, holy shit, that was unbelievable. And I was like... Okay, right now I know I can do this.
Wow, he complimented you.
Yeah, it was a real confidence boost at a time when.
Well, they were happy.
You know, you're just. And funny enough, when I went out into the car park, I did a reel straight away to say, oh, thanks to Johnny Herrera, thanks to the Shamrock, blah blah. Tagged everybody as you know I do.
Yeah, you're very good online.
And
as well.
I wasn't 10 minutes down the road, and I'm getting like the internal phone call, you know, from the messenger within Instagram, and it was Graham, the guy.
Graham, yeah.
And he's like, I cannot believe a guy from Dublin has just performed in my pub on the one night off that I'm on this week.
Yeah.
He was raging that, you know, he had missed this, you know, missed me being up.
Aww.
Yeah.
So he just said, you know, come up, you know, whenever you want to, you know, come up again, let me know. We'll work something out and we'll get you up, you know. So I want to get to a point where I'm at a good 20-25 and you know, properly comfortable with it.
For being so fresh, I mean, having 8 minutes solid, I think is pretty amazing.
Well, I'm at a point now, so I can't even, I you know, I have my green book there to keep on my material in. I try to write now at least 10 to 12 jokes or premises per day without fail. I rarely take a day off on that aspect. Now, sometimes you might only come out with 6 or 7 premises, or, you know, but I have a huge big dry whiteboard at home. You know, Chris has certainly seen the post-it notes. It's just wall to wall with post-it notes of a concept, something I've seen or observed. And I say this now to the other graduates that have come on since through Melissa, because I often work with the shows in America, and just try to give them as much encouragement as I can. Probably that's the coach in me coming out, but try to write every day. You'll see something every day that you can turn into a joke. And a lot of the material that I've done, I mean, Chris gave me a lovely compliment a few weeks back where he said, you know, continue to keep working your material, and, you know, and I'm glad if Solaris can offer you that opportunity to get up and perform brand new material, which I think that's really key. Unfortunately, there's comedians that I see who they want to be successful and they deserve to be successful. They're good comics when they're up there, but their material is last week's material, the week before's material. It's the same joke being repeated and not being adjusted or improved on. And I just go, okay, I don't mean to be rootless about it, but there's a very famous YouTube video that I've seen, Ralphie May, where he did a workshop up in, I think it's the Comedy Store up in LA for comics or comic writers. And he just said, if you're a hobbyist, get out of my way. Don't take 5 minutes on a stage that I want to be on, because I'm up there I want to be a performing comedian. And I thought that was a very rootless comment to hear at the time, but I am a bit that way now where, it's not that I'm looking down on anybody, but I'm just sort of saying, like, if you're going to just waste 5 minutes up there, don't make me be 15th in line to get up on stage, because, as has happened sometimes, 3 or 4 comics before you who just absolutely bomb or die, they suck the oxygen out of the room.
For sure.
So that when you're getting up and you've got a good set.
They walk the room.
Yeah, but you've done a good set like 2 nights in a row, and this is your 3rd night getting up at an open mic, and you're going, oh man, I've got to build this all back up. All the momentum that was there from all the previous comics has just been ruined by 2 or 3 people. And I don't mean to be mean, but it's just, I'm at that point now where I'm impatient about it, because I want to get up and I want to perform. I get a great laugh from the laughter.
It bad. You want it.
Yeah.
You want it.
And it's definitely it's something that weighs heavy when you have that like desire. It becomes like just part of who you are to be where you want to be. And it's tough because you get that anticipation and then anxiety because you want it now.
Yeah.
You don't want it tomorrow.
Yeah.
You want it right now. So
it's sort of like,
I get it.
It's like like I was saying earlier about night school. Like when you're getting on all these open mics and you're doing night school, and like you're training, and like if you were in a different profession and you're learning the trade, there's some students who just don't get it, and they're like asking all these questions. And you're like, God, can we just like please move on? Like I just need to get to the next thing. But like the first a couple years, like it takes time. As you're doing, just keep doing what you're doing, and those hurdles and those things that will slow you down, or you'll think they're slowing you down. Give you sometimes that watching these other people will give you ideas to fine tune and see, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. It's like the idea of enjoying the journey. You got to make sure you do that because when you get to that,
I do think that that's one of the things that I see with a lot of the new people that come into the open mics. They don't understand what the process is. I understand that I have to wait a few years to get to a certain level, and even then when I get to that level, to get where I probably eventually want to be, that could take 8 years, 10 years. It could even be longer. But,
you never know, actually.
So a friend of mine said to me, you're 53 now. Why would you start to try and do something new at this stage of your life? And I was like, hang on a second. Have you seen some of the guys who, are absolute, like, ball busters with numbers on YouTube and on Instagram Reels, the likes of the Brad Uptons, or I'm trying to think what the other guy's name is right now, but he's a really older guy. And
Bernie Mac came in super late.
He was late, yeah.
He came in way late.
Yeah.
And he killed.
Yeah, but the summary for me was when we did our graduation show with Empire Comedy, there was two different gigs, and I was asked to do both of them by Melissa, which I found to be a huge compliment. But the first show my daughter was at, she's 16 now, so you're talking about a year ago, and after I was finished, and it was only like, you're talking about a 5-minute set, but she just said, Dad, I'm really proud of you. And I just went,
Melt.
That's the best.
Job done.
Yeah.
That's that. I don't need a medal. I don't need a award. I don't need a Netflix special after that. Just Dad, well done. And I was just like, that's exactly why I want to do this now. And the fact that she could see the work I've been doing, scribbling in the book every day, or I've notepads and post-it notes everywhere
She's
the whole
paying
time.
attention.
And but the worst the thing is, if she ever decides to take up comedy, she'd probably crucify me, because she's got an acidic wit which you just could not believe. Some of the things that she comes out with, I just go, shit, like, how do I convert that to a 53-year-old Irish man? How do I change that to my joke?
Hey,
but,
you could do a duet, like a father-daughter.
Oh, crying out loud now!
Why not?
Chris likes duet.
She'd slay me. That'd be like one of those comedy roasts where only one person's ever going to be the winner.
Not a roast. I'm saying a
set
duet.
up a roast.
Oh God, no!
Yeah, I'm not saying a roast. I'm saying a duet.
My daily life is a roast with her.
That'd be fun, like the dynamic.
So then you're used to it, no problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you should do it. Or look into it. I think that'd be fun to see that dynamic, polar opposite.
I'll give her some time to learn a little bit more about life.
Yeah. I'm sure she walks in your room and she thinks you're a conspiracy theorist because you got all the notes and like bubble print.
Yeah, it would look like that. Yeah, conspiracy theory.
Yeah, it's part of the
comedy,
CIA now.
Yeah, and she's like, he's a comedian. Nice.
I do. There is one question that I need to know, because I do love beer very much, and what I want to know is, when you were at Shamrock, did that Guinness taste like the Guinness in Ireland, in Dublin?
I am going to give the Shamrock the biggest plug I can give them by saying it is the best pint of Guinness that I've tasted in America anywhere.
Nice.
Anywhere.
It is.
That's good.
And that actually was when I went in that night and I found out there was a show. I rang my wife and I said, well, look, there's no show or there's no open mic. I'm going to stay and watch the warm-ups, you know, as I now know features, but just at the time in my head, the word was warm-up. And I figured, you know, they're going to do 5:10, whatever, and they're off, and I'll be gone. I'm not going to wait. I'm not going to stay for a whole night. And I said, I'm going to have a Guinness. And she said, well, why not? Why wouldn't you? And, you know, Graham being from Dublin, he's not going to put up, you know, the pint of Guinness is it's holier than communion or altar wine, you know, in Irish terms. You don't mess around with a Guinness. You don't, you know, nobody accepts.
It's
you know,
holy.
Oh yeah. And I knew that if a Dublin guy owns this place, it's going to be a good Guinness. And my God, it's like silk.
It's silk.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should leave them a Yelp review, honestly. You do it. I'm telling you, it helps people.
It's that
It helps them.
It's the nitro and the the carbonation combo.
Yeah.
Well, even I have to say that even the advent of the nitro into the market, like when they did that first in Ireland, like even then people were like, no. I remember my dad. You know, my dad was a Guinness drinker, and no, not right. And then he tasted one. That's not bad, actually.
Now you're getting up
Yeah,
on
they do
stage
great.
like you're mentioning four times a week. So
Yeah, I'm up to 4 now a week.
What's
Yeah.
the
Where are you going?
Yeah, what's
Sorry.
the distance that you're driving?
So typically I do Solaris on a Monday, Derby's on a Tuesday. Most recently, I've been going to the Rock Gallery over in Palm Springs.
Okay.
Shout out to Abe and Justin and Emily over there. That they've been really very, very, very welcoming to me, which makes the drive a worthwhile investment. And I did an open mic last Wednesday, and they did a vote amongst all the comedians to have 5. The top 5 were basically chosen to do a show last Sunday, where everybody got a 10. And I was like, okay, you know, there's no way I'm going to get picked. I've only been here twice so far, and it turns out that I was one of the ones who got most of the votes. So
All
I know.
right.
So that made me feel very kind of okay. Now I know I can take it well outside of Temecula and, you know, a whole different audience, and it's not, you know, no disrespecting the open mics that are more local, but I know most of the people there now. So sometimes, you know, when you do a good bit, you're thinking to yourself, you know, am I getting laughter because people know me and like me at this
Right.
point, or am I getting laughter out of the joke is actually really funny? And even on Monday, there was a couple of lines that I did that I thought, you know, yeah, that's a belter. I'm gonna throw out this belter now, and the reaction was just like, oh no, you know,
Right.
that worked last night, you know.
Yeah.
But so, you know, the open mics, you know, as I've learned, it can be very up and down and what have you. But I think I've reached a point now where I can kind of see through that. Okay, it wasn't a great night for the room, or it wasn't a great night for me. I can distinguish between the two. Whereas before, it used to be just, it was always, you know, I was horrible. I don't deserve to be. I don't deserve to perform here. You know.
Yeah.
And I think we've had a couple of conversations that way where my confidence was just,
Yeah.
Christ, I thought I'd written a good
It's
set
a
there.
shot
you know?
to the gut sometimes.
Yeah, you know, and you know, and certainly when it's, you know, a joke that's a little bit maybe more personal to you, you know, because you're revealing part of who you are, and then it doesn't get the reaction, and you're like,
dude,
I've just borne part of my soul to you
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
I'm laying myself bare here,
Yeah.
and it's funny. So you know,
and they're like,
I'm
we
nude
know.
and you're not laughing.
They're like, no, that's what we're here for. We're here to watch you suffer. Like,
Yeah.
some audience members are pretty
Yeah.
intense.
For
you know,
sure.
I used
In this
I
town.
used the expression before where I actually thought, you know, I said some of the people in that room last night were professionally trained to not laugh. You know, because they make you feel so. Oh God, am I really bad at this? You know?
I feel like Shamrock does that a lot.
You should, you
No lie.
You should take up for those people. If you what if they're actually deaf? They might be
Well,
deaf.
it's funny you should.
Yeah, you could kind of do.
It's funny.
some-
Well, it's funny you should mention that because my daughter is actually quite affluent in Great Oak
Sign
High School
Oh.
doing ASL.
That's amazing.
And I actually asked her for one of the shows that I was doing. I said, "Would you come up and do
Sign language.
ASL on the stage with me?"
That's
And,
awesome.
Yeah, and
That's
she
so
said,
cool.
"Dad, I won't because it wouldn't be fair to the other comedians." And I actually thought, you know, she really thought it out. She said, "Dad, that's putting you into a different bracket again, and it would only be fair if I did it for every comedian, and I don't know what their sets are going to be. And then knowing who was on the listing that night, there was 2 comics that I definitely didn't want her doing sign language for, so I was like, yeah, it's probably a good idea you don't do it at the moment.
Spell the word fuck, or
I'm not even going to ask. I think you would spell it, yes. You know, but,
I think there's an actual sign for it.
But there's
I don't know.
I don't know.
That's one of the things I get told is that, especially when I first came over, is that I F-bomb quite a bit. And, you know, the F word is just...
beautiful.
It's just part of everyday language in Ireland, like, you know. And
right.
It's mine, too.
Good. Am I safe saying it on the podcast? Okay. So, early on when I first came over, one of the teams I was coaching at the time, so it was something like the 2017, was 1999 girls. So they were 16, 17, as I would call them, young ladies rather than girls at that point. And one of the girls was particularly large on top. And in Ireland, we call them bibs, but over here, you know, in sports, they get referred to as pinnies. You know, they're just a coloured top that goes on over your shirt. And this thing was like bet tight onto her. It was so as soon as the drill was done, she said, "Coach, can I take this up?" She said, "Absolutely." She says, "What do you want me to do with it?" And I literally just went, "Oh, just fuck it over there."
Yeah.
And I went on to start laying out cones as the girls were about to do a lap of the field. And she stopped, like frozen solid. She's like, "Sorry, what did you just say to me?" I said, "Just fuck it over there."
Yeah.
And then some of the other girls heard it, because they were still within 10 yards.
Right.
And they all started to stop and look at me and go, "Coach, what are you telling her to do?" And I was like, Jesus fucking Christ. Just fucking over there.
Yeah.
And it's nothing to me. I don't, you know, it's a throwaway word, you know. "Coach, are you asking her to have sex with the pinny on the ground?" God. "Oh, Jesus, no, you know." Yeah. And I'm thinking, that's my career over already. Yeah. I'm only a few weeks out here and I've already ruined it. But, you know, it's so funny that, you know, when people hear me, they, you know, "God, you do F-bomb quite a lot." And I was like, "What the fuck's an F-bomb?" You know, because I hadn't heard the F-bomb expression before. And, you know, "Are you fucking serious?"
Right.
You know, it's called F-bomb?
Yeah, you Americans are a bunch of pussies.
Seriously.
That's fucking ridiculous, you know. So, but there's a great, if you want to look it up, or anybody watching the podcast looks it up, look up a Scottish comedian called Billy Connolly, and he talks about the use of the word fuck and how it gets used internationally. And what a lot of people don't actually know is the origin of the word, which was F-U-C-K, is understood over here by a lot of people to be for unlawful carnal knowledge.
Oh, that's cool.
But it was originally
an acronym. I like acronyms.
Yeah. So that was actually, it was a Van Halen album called For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. And when they got their T-shirts done, it obviously had the letters this way or going across saying F-U-C-K.
Wait, we have to thank Van Halen for this?
No. Just that the word got popularized a bit more
by them.
But the origin of the word actually comes from a UK, I'm going to call it a rule or a law, but at the time you would have seen this in the movie Braveheart. It was called fornication under consent of the king. And it was where when somebody got married,
it's a fuck.
Yeah.
But it became a thing where the king or the local lord had the first on the night of the first marriage, they had the right to sleep with the bride. And that's where the word fuck came from.
Yeah. So
it was not right. So that's why the word fuck has such a bad tinge to it.
Yes. Yeah.
Here. I don't know about. But, okay. So no, I love this.
Totally useless piece of information, but I'm full of those.
No, it's not. No, it's not. I bet you $1 million, no one, guys, in the comments, let us know if you knew what this meant.
Of course, there.
Or where it stemmed from.
I already knew that for sure. I'm an expert.
We don't need an Irish guy coming over here telling us what we know. Oh, we already know.
Whatever. Yeah. No. I thank you for sharing that.
That was really freaking cool.
Yeah,
I always wondered that.
That is great.
Well, ironically, I was actually in Braveheart as well as an extra.
Really?
No shit.
Yeah, I did over 40 films and TV shows back in Ireland, and my dad was a lighting electrician in the film business, and the consequence of it would be I would get a lot of work, and then obviously, like comedy, you get to know the people who book the people in, and so sometimes when a production was on, I would get a phone call, "Hey, can you be out here for 6:30 in the morning? We need extra bodies, what have you." So the scene at the end where he's being brought in to be pulled onto the quartermaster, where he gets stretched out.
Oh, you were there?
Yeah, I'm in the crowd, and if you look at the film, I only spoke about this on stage last night. If you look at the film, there's a part in it where you'll actually see a close up of Mel Gibson where he's shouting and everything else, and he gets hit by it. It looks like a white rock. Now I can tell you with undoubted, not a shred of evidence to counter this. I know for 100% fact that it was the raw butt of a cabbage. And the reason I know this is because it was the guy beside me who threw it. And Mel Gibson was strapped down onto this thing, as you can remember.
Really?
And this thing cracked him onto something. Now, this guy threw this like a baseball shot, the speed it moved. We had all these rotten tomatoes and, lettuce and all rotten. The whole idea was they were to be thrown open. Even as they flew through the air, the leaves would fall off, and that was the whole idea with the crowd shot. So we're getting all this briefing, make sure you don't peel it off, make sure there's nice and loose bits, hanging out. So when it goes, when it hits the wall or whatever, it's going to splatter a bit more and the whole lot.
Yeah.
And this guy just got bored because we were standing around for ages. They were doing a reset of the cameras, whatever, and he just peeled away and peeled. And I'm looking at him, kind of going, I don't think you're supposed to do that,
I think they just said not to do that.
He's like, I was sent here by Mel Gibson's wife.
It hit Mel.
Yeah. I don't know if you've heard the voicemail, but I'm here for a reason.
But he's strapped to the scene, gets hit with it, and he as soon as it hit him, and it's very cleverly edited actually when you watch the movie. But he literally just God, get me out of these. Bailed off the stage of where he was up on, straight into the crowd. And I don't know, I've often wondered, does Monty Python carry over here the way it does in
Monty Python?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So the Life of Brian moment with the stoning.
I'm not familiar with that one.
I don't know that one very well.
I'm only familiar with Holy Grail. That was my jam.
The Life of Brian is a movie where the character is being mistaken for Jesus because they were both born on the same night and everything else. And it's absolutely hilarious. But there's a scene in it where a guy is getting stoned, and the centurion comes across and he goes, "Who threw that stone?" And it was exactly like this with Mel Gibson. Who threw that fucking thing? And he's ready to go. And if you watch any Mel Gibson movie where he's toned up and he's beefed up and he's angry in the film, he can look scary. And obviously as William Wallace, he looks even scarier again because he was super toned up. And he came and everybody he comes towards us and it's like, "Who threw that thing? I want to know what motherfucker threw this thing." And everybody just went, "It was him. And everybody just shuffled, exactly like the Monty Python did. Everybody just shuffled, "It was him." And the people on the other side were all and all of a sudden this guy is standing there with bits of all this cabbage leaves on the ground. So he nailed himself. He didn't even kick the evidence away, But he was like, "You're fired. Get out of here." It was just gone, done. But everybody was walking on eggshells for the rest of the day after that,
Yeah, but it made it on the cut.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that guy's claim to fame. He's probably doing stand up in Ireland, going, "I'm the guy who hit Mel Gibson in the head."
Remember that? You're welcome, guys. You're welcome.
He's got cabbage tattooed on his neck. That's cool. Oh my god,
that is so bad.
I always loved watching. I have a thing for movie production and extras.
Yeah, I've always said I wanted to be the best extra ever.
I have so many stories over the years. I did a film called In the Name of the Father with Daniel Day-Lewis.
Oh, I love Daniel.
Very, very, very strong political story about guys who were incorrectly jailed in Britain for a terrorism act involving the IRA with the time of the Troubles back then. And it was shot in Kilmainham Jail in Dublin. And I would drive in with my dad every day. So I'd be going with my dad probably an hour or 2 hours before I was actually needed to be on set. But I'm taking a lift with my dad. I'm I can't even remember what age I was at the time. But Daniel Day-Lewis was getting himself locked up in the cell that he was in the film. But he'd get locked up in the cell overnight. Didn't stay in a hotel. He was staying in the cell because he wanted to get into the mentality of what this guy had been put through. And we're driving into the set where the staff parking is. And there's an ambulance, and we're like, "What the?" My dad is petrified. Oh God, one of the guys up in the rig, and with a light or whatever, and you think there's been, somebody's fallen from something, or So quickly it comes out that no, during the night there was literally a bed and literally a wooden chair for him to sit on if he wanted to sit up. It wasn't a TV brought into him at night time, to get him through the night. It was nothing like that. He was living like a prisoner, and on this given night they would have people come in like the prison guards used to do to hit the character, I'd throw water on him at 2 o'clock in the morning to wake him up. All sorts, kick the bed, turn the bed over, whatever it would be. So it was getting him into a proper psychopath kind of mentality, which is
he's
what
like
happens.
a time traveler.
Which is what happens to the character in real life. And anyway, Daniel Day-Lewis had decided to stuff the bed with the pillow and the whole thing to make it look like he was in the bed. So when the door opened, guy comes in to take the bed up. Daniel smashes the chair over his back. Absolutely poleaxes this guy. And the guy was actually coming out at the time. We were just arriving onto the set. And I was like, that's method acting. That's
No
really,
shit.
Yeah.
So there's a ton of stories that way that I could go on. There's so many instances over the years that were just absolutely incredible,
God, I gotta hear all of them.
Well,
I need to hear all of them.
we'll need time off the podcast for that because there's so many things. I mean,
Over a Guinness.
yeah,
sure.
absolutely, yeah, definitely up in the Shamrock.
All right.
That's fine.
Graham, we're on the way.
We'll just sit in the back.
2 pints, please, there, barman.
Real quick, two things. One, I could see a future of you. Whatever happened, when Johnny, if something were to, I could see you being the host at the Shamrock Irish Pub.
Oh my
I'd
God.
love that,
I'm
yeah.
sure
I would,
Graham would love it
Graham
too.
would love it.
I think that the whole idea of especially even that night, what I always remember was the warmth of the crowd that were there, and everybody coming. It was so lovely to hear an Irish accent doing comedy, and when will you be back? When will you be back? And I was just, well,
They need you. They
we have
need
to wait
you.
and see. Oh, well, I might just leave here tonight and go up and have a pint with Graham. Graham, now's the time. I've been told. Sorry, Johnny.
Hey, I'm ready. I'm ready, Graham. You know what I'm talking about, right? Wink, wink, wink.
Well, I mean, you obviously know Justin Fox, and
Yeah, of course.
I have regular conversations with Justin about we've got to team up and do something. And at one point we were thinking about doing twins, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Danny DeVito on the hot opera.
Oh shit, that's
Dude,
funny.
that's for Halloween.
I just think even
Yeah.
Well, we've got that unique day, St. Patrick's Day, where I could dress up as St. Patrick and he could just be one of my leprechauns,
He would love that.
Yeah.
But he's all game for it. He was like,
yeah.
he said, I've got the costume. And I was like,
Yeah,
whoa.
he does. He does. That's what he does. He works.
Yeah, Justin's always
those
down.
gigs.
That guy's cool.
So I reckon 17th of March every year could be my money maker,
Yeah.
Right on.
And then I love watching extras in Braveheart. Sorry to go back real quick.
No,
Yeah, no,
we
okay.
cut you off.
It's okay. In Braveheart, sometimes as a battle happens after two characters will start having dialogue, and if you keep watching in the background, some of the people aren't even really fighting anymore. They're just sort of like they don't know what's going on, and that's always a lot of fun to see.
What you had with Braveheart, which also happened with the opening sequence in Saving Private Ryan, if you remember when they're storming the beach, they used a lot of the extras that were used were from what's called the FCA. I'm not going to remember the exact wording, but it's three Irish words: Forza, Core, and I can't remember what the last one is, but we used to nickname the FCA called the Free Clothes Association. It's a volunteer thing that you do to prepare yourself for going into the army.
No shit.
So you give up 2 weeks of your summer every year and go and do proper training. Yeah. And the idea we like reserve, I suppose, like the reserves. It's an extra force that could be called on if something was to happen. So because these guys are idled all year round, I mean, Ireland doesn't fight wars. We only do peacekeeping really overseas in different countries. And these guys, the people who made Braveheart and Saving Private Ryan approached the FCA and said, look, we can put your guys to work for 2 weeks if you want to really, and have them live on a camp at the beach, or especially with Braveheart, like they stayed out in the middle of the Curragh camp, which is where a lot of those the battle scenes were shot. And the Curragh is a beautiful place. It's just wide open land. There's a race course there as well, but there's an army encampment there as well, and it was all attached to all of this stuff. And they were literally sleeping in the wilds like for 2 weeks, wearing all these like horrible. The clothing was horrible. I can still feel the itch on my skin from the. So it was because obviously it had to look authentic to what was worn back in the times of.
Yeah, be uncomfortable too at the same time.
I couldn't even try to tell you what the material is, but it was like sackcloth.
They're like, we don't like extras.
yeah.
Just put some,
make them look miserable, But
just get a bunch of scrub daddies and put it on the inside of their shirts.
But so that's where you'd have guys in the background, and certainly in Braveheart, who just they weren't even anything close to actors. You know, they were just guys were just there to collect their 50 quid a day or whatever, and, and the whole lot, and they were happy out with that, like, kind of thing. But it made for some epic scenes, you know what I mean? It's one of the things that, you know, when I look back on stuff that I experienced with my dad over the years, you know, being on a film set, just even sometimes just to be on the set with him, and not even be involved as an extra, just to see some of the magic that goes on behind scenes, like the whole lot. And, you know, I've played a game of snooker with Pierce Brosnan, who went on to be James Bond. He shot a program called Remington Steele. It was a TV series over here. And he'd been over a couple of times to do the different episodes of Ireland, and my dad actually got to know him quite well, him and his wife. And we went out one day and played snooker with him and his son. And you know, like, I'm thinking to myself, I'm with Remington Steele here having a game of snooker. And then when he became James Bond, I was like, you remember the time I came in here with James Bond? You know what I mean? This is
holy crap.
You know, and I've met some really, really top people over the years, you know, because of it. And I've, you know, some lovely photographs that I've got taken over the years and managed to get signed. It was a great thing with my dad being on the set, because I could do extras on a Monday, get a photograph taken, get it back then printed, as you remember the old way, you had to roll a film, had to go in. And I'd be back in the set on a Friday just as a visitor. Hey, would you mind signing that for me? So
that's cool.
I've got like best directors and best actors, best actresses that have, you know, who've won Oscars and, you know, stuff like that. And
so you have a bright future on eBay.
yeah. Well, unfortunately, a lot of them are personalised, right? It's like two Austin. So I'm gonna need.
There's a lot of Austin.
I'm gonna need. I'm not gonna need a buyer that's called Austin. You know.
Yeah, comedy's blowing up in Austin. You could just move there and like
So that's where Joe Newcomer went to, wasn't it? He went to Austin.
Oh yeah, Joe Newcomer went there. Yeah. I was extra on Lucifer on Fox at Monte de Oro winery here in town. Amy had a connection, and then, like, somehow...
Yeah, someone just let me know, and I was like, well, I'm working, so
I'll go. And then, they were, like, in the background. I got a lot of screen time.
Yeah, he did.
But, like, he
was, like, right over the devil's shoulder, which is ironic.
I was like, cool. I'm the devil on the devil's shoulder. That's cool. But, like, they were doing all the takes, like, I was just drinking the wine, and so like,
did they fill you up?
Yeah, sometimes they were like, you're not really supposed to be drinking. I'm like, dude, I'm trying to get into character. Like, I'm at a winery. Well, it was fun, but they had like a artificial sun, and like there was like the amount, like when they say action, there's like 50 people. Because it's Universal, Warner Brothers was like the production, and the amount of respect to what goes on for one shot is incredible. So
well, I think anybody who sees the behind the scenes on anything like that, you know, like you say, and there can be a huge amount of activity going on that you would never realize, like, that was all happening as two people were saying goodbye to each other at a train station or something, you know, and there's all this madness going on because there's somebody making it rain, or there's somebody doing lightning, or, you know, whatever it could be. And I loved all that. I just loved it. You know, it was the industrial part of obviously what is the magic of Hollywood, you know, as you'd call it. But I loved watching it. I admired my dad so much, you know, for being in that environment, you know, that he mingled with these people, you know, on a day-to-day basis. And you know, you'd see a big star and he'd say, "Oh, hey, Bill," and I'd be like, "Dad, do you know that person? Or do you know that? You know that they were in the..." And then sometimes, like, I don't, just one real, I can't remember what the song is. I can picture the video. It's a black and white video going way back. I think it's from the Unforgettable Fire, U2. And my dad comes home one day. I didn't even know where he'd gone to work on that day, and he says, "Yeah, I'm doing a video for some band called U2." And
oh my God.
And I was like, what the?
Yeah.
I mean, U2 was the first band to play at the Sphere in
Vegas.
Obviously.
But ironically, my dad would go to a pub in Dublin, right on the heart of the Liffey, which is a river that runs right through Dublin City, and it's called the Dockers, and for obvious reasons, because it's right out where the docks would be. So a lot of the workers would come into this place. And he brings me in for a beer one day, and it's just around the corner from Windmill Lane Studios, which I didn't know at the time. I now know, but Windmill Lane was where U2 recorded a lot of their albums. And I come in and I sit down, and my dad's friend, who I knew, you know, we're just, "Oh yeah, how's it going?" "Dad, is that Bono over there?" is that the Edge? And he goes, those lads, they're here every other week.
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
Yeah.
so, you know,
He's like, they're beneath me.
I
son."
mean, Bono's knighted, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's a.
I
Sir.
don't know. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
He's a sir.
Yeah, I believe he's
I
sir.
can't believe he accepted that if that's the case.
That's
Oh my
I'm pretty
God.
sure.
Okay.
I could be
pretty
wrong.
sure.
Leave us a note in the comments.
Yeah. That's one I didn't even know myself. Actually, didn't even know it.
I'm pretty sure he was knighted.
I mean, Elton John's knighted, I think.
Well, yeah. Well,
Bono's
Elton John
knighted.
is a member of the British Empire. Like,
Well,
you
that
know,
would make
whereas
sense. Okay, I could be wrong. My bad.
Bono's
but
from Dublin.
I swore.
I know Bob Geldof, who'd be considered like a proper dub, like a Dublin guy. He accepted his knighthood for doing Live Aid and Band Aid and stuff.
At this point in my brain, I would think that Oprah's knighted as well. Like anybody like super celebrity, they're knighted. That's how I, yeah.
Yeah.
But go on, I
Anyway.
apologize.
No, we can move on from talking about Britain and anything to do with them.
Sorry.
Speaking of Britain, I'm so before Amy and I started dating, my entire life, my mom raised me to believe that I was Italian. Like,
Okay.
and she had this thing about with Italians, and she's like, "That's why you're good at Mario, because you're Italian. Like that's why you like pizza,
Right, it
because
makes
you're
sense.
Italian. You're like everything's that you're Italian. You're Italian." And like she would take me down to the Florida Keys and like lay me out, and I looked like a Cuban kid. Like I was so burnt tan, like I was, and she was like, "You're Italian. You're Italian." And so then Amy and I, when we started dating in like 2016, 2017, I was like, "Yeah, that's because I'm Italian." And she was like, "No, you're not. You're not Italian." And she's like, "No, you're definitely not Italian." And so for like my birthday, I think or Christmas, she got me an Ancestry.com, and I'm half English, half Irish.
Okay.
And like
There's zero.
yeah, zero Italian. So yeah, when
The closest you've been to being Italian is having a pizza.
and playing Mario. Yeah, but so then when at the Shamrock, I would tell people, I'm like, Paul's English and Graham's Irish. So like, see, I'm supposed to be here. Like I'm half both or whatever. And I would like pledge allegiance to the flag to get the audience on board. But they were like, I don't like his man bun, and I don't like his skinny jeans, and I don't like his stand up. So I don't like him. Like it. So it was, but I took all that energy and I dumped it into Solaris, and I have
True story.
Yeah, it was all fun. But that's it. That's my little shindig on being half Irish. But yeah, it's nice to be around my people. Right now.
Yeah.
Amy's like, how much Irish are you?
I'm Irish, German, Swedish, but I came to find out that I'm actually a little more Swedish than I am Irish. I thought I was just more Irish and German than anything. My grandmother, her parents and her sister are from Germany. And then my last name I got obviously from my dad, but my dad's pretty Irish. My last name is Quirk.
Okay.
Yeah. Is there any Quirks out there?
Yeah.
A lot?
Yeah, there would be, yeah. I
Okay.
would have gone to school to Quirk.
There's like a
I
million
would've
Amy's
coached.
running around right now in Ireland. That's cool. Well, let's move into our segment.
Okay.
You ready? Okay. Here we go. It's time for conspiracies. Yeah, conspiracies, baby. Yeah, what's the conspiracy for today, Comedy Crow? It's going to be about the 9/11 conspiracy. Yeah. This is for entertainment purposes only, and this is all fun and games. And you know what? It's been like 20-something years. I think we can talk about it. So,
Yeah.
South Park said so.
Yeah, these are all just fun theories and things to think about. So pour yourself a glass of Solaris beer, and let's chat about what we think happened during 9/11. First off, I'll just throw it out there. The smoking gun is Tower 7 that nobody really wants to talk about. Now, the thing why I want to start off with Tower 7 is because 9/11 was in September, but in the Gregorian calendar, we follow the Gregorian calendar, which makes 9 being September, but actuality, September is sept for 7, and then October is 8, and November is 9, and December is 10. So the proper calendar months or it's supposed to be September for 7. So 7-11 was September 11th. Huh, that's so weird because there's two towers. They're both ones. And then the Tower 7. So 7-11.
I've not thought about that one before.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a fun little thing. A little shout out to Solaris Beer and Blending, everybody. This stuff starts grinding my gears.
Yeah,
but yeah,
it really does.
What are your thoughts on? Let's just start off with Tower 7. What was weird about that? Why should anybody know about Tower 7?
Where do you begin? I suppose the different things about what happened on the day. I mean, it was the first time in the history of the world that any steel structured building collapsed to the ground in free fall.
Yeah.
So that's to do with the main towers with World Trade Center 7. That building wasn't even hit. That's the first thing, and this is one of the things that I've always said. I just don't understand why it doesn't get questioned more about. There's just too many things that are left unanswered.
Right.
And the offices that were held in that particular building,
Tower 7.
In Tower 7, you had FBI departments, you had Rudy Giuliani's emergency response, different things. Documents that were held in those buildings in the different offices that were pertinent to very, very large prosecutions that were being done, all just deleted.
Bye.
Yeah.
All deleted in a second.
Yeah.
Never thought about that.
You've got the
From random office fires. That was the commission had said. Random office fires brought down that building.
Oh, nothing is random.
Yeah.
And there was nothing that made the building look. You see all the different shots that are up there, and they're all available on YouTube. You see, there was nothing that made the building look under severe stress.
Right.
Obviously, if there's a fire going on
To
inside,
completely collapse it.
yeah, to collapse,
Collapse the
especially
way
And
it
then
did.
it was like a demolition.
Yeah,
collapse.
it looked like a demolition.
It's a perfect free fall. And there's a variety of demolition experts over the world, around the world who have theorized on it, and they've proven that the only way these buildings could fall in a pancake in the way that they did was controlled explosions.
Yeah.
There's a documentary film, and I know it's been edited a couple of times, but some of the source material that they used was from two brothers called the Naudet brothers, and they were actually tracking a trainee firefighter out of one of the firehouses very close to the towers, and they were basically doing a documentary about what it's like to go from being a probie into being a full-on fireman, and they were the ones who caught the footage of the first plane hitting the first tower. They were actually out at a gas inspection. One of the brothers was shooting at the time, and you see them that they're using the reader, that makes that sound. And the next thing, one of the firefighters looks up, and there's a shadow has gone over his head, but you don't see anything. But the camera just lifts up, and you see the plane hit the tower.
Yeah,
and that prompted. Dylan Avery, Corey Rowe, Jason Bermas, three guys. They were student filmmakers at the time, and they produced a documentary called Loose Change, which it's available on different platforms, but it's harder to find now because it reached the point where it was the #1 most watched YouTube video, and they basically set it out originally to be fictional, where they asked questions about events that took place on that given day, and pretty just understandable questions to ask. And with that, like the whole thing about the collapse of the buildings was contained in that. And any time that people say, "Oh, that's just a conspiracy theory," and they'd negate whatever it was that was being prompted in the film, all they wanted was answers. They weren't saying it's definitely this, but they want to know. Prove to me that it's definitely not this.
Right.
We just want to know. And as they got more and more into the story, what became a fictional concept became, whoa, there's a lot to this. Yeah. And Loose Change, I think, has been done. I think they've done 4 different versions. I actually became social media friends with Dylan and Corey over time because they also used to do tutorials in photography, which at one point I was trying to get into in a big way, and I had aspirations to become a photographer proper,
professional,
professionally, yes. And I just got to know them through talking to them, over text on the instant messaging services and what have you. Really, really interesting guys, but they reached a point where they were just so saturated and so hounded by the media You know, that they just said, right, enough's enough. We need to move on with our lives, and people just need to move on with it. But YouTube have taken the documentaries down in their different formats over the years. But they went a long way to ask different questions. They had architects, they had structural engineers, people who were really qualified to talk about what they were talking about, and those guys all asked those questions. You know, okay, like with the two towers, there's no possible way that jet fuel can ignite to a temperature and burn for as long as would be needed to melt the structure of a steel structured building, and yet these buildings fell in free fall. You know, to achieve a pancake situation like that, you have to have controlled explosions, because the level below has to be weaker, and weaker, and weaker, Jenga. And weaker and weaker. So yeah, like a Jenga. And I just don't understand how those questions don't get asked. They really are. And if they have been asked, it's the way that they get suppressed is just astounding to me.
I mean, there were some interviews too that I remember seeing that some of the workers that worked there heard, explosions.
Yes.
Firefighters were on the news saying there's bombs going off in the basement.
Right. That's right. That happened too. But I remember there was one dude in particular that I remember that was down in the basement.
Yeah, well, no, I have two different versions of that documentary on DVD. That so I just don't use DVD anymore. So,
right.
But I know I'd have it that I could probably source the clips for you. But like that, there was employees that spoke up and said, no, there was explosions. There was firefighters that said we could hear explosions, because obviously
in
with
the
the second building, the guys who arrived at on the first scene. You see them as they come back to the firehouse, and one guy in particular, it sits with me. Even now, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. And he's describing to his fellow firefighters. All I heard was pop, 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 pop.
Yeah,
and it always sticks with me, because I was like, whoa, that's a guy who knows, and he's saying that, and this was a kind of his live reaction as he came back into the fire station. Oh my God, you got out, okay. And he goes, yeah, and he's describing everything that happened. He just does that pop, 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 and it was where he goes pop, 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 pop. And
I wonder what happened to him.
Well,
people that talk too much, what happens to them.
We found, they found passports of the terrorists outside the buildings.
Conveniently.
Yeah.
Very convenient,
Yeah. 7-Eleven, convenience stores.
Oh, convenient. Oh my God.
I want to say real quick,
so
the Jesse Ventura had a whole show based on conspiracy theories, and one was about the towers, and he showed that if you wanted to plan this all out, one of the things you could do is there was a ignition paint that you could put on a roller and paint on the pillars those cut lines, and then set detonators.
Wow.
But they would go in as workers looking like painters, and they just put the lines, and then those popping sounds were those cuts. And that's why during the cleanup, there were a lot of photos of like 45-degree lava cut pillars.
Yeah.
And you're like, that doesn't make any sense. There's a lot of them. That's very interesting. And that's why they were like, we got to clean all of this out. No investigation, just clean it up. And they spent days getting rid of everything. And then the dust that kicked up was the same kind of dust that when they did research, they were finding that the dust that was kicked up from the towers collapsing had the same ingredients that would be in demolition as well. But we can't talk about that because it's entertainment purposes only.
Yes.
We're just having a good time.
I think I'm getting mad.
Yeah, there's also a lot of talk about were those even planes, or was there missiles or whatever? And my theory on it, I have two theories I want to throw at you. Number one, after going through all the stuff I've seen over 20 years, one of the things that I think there were planes, but they weren't the typical planes that you're used to. I think they were unmanned commercial airliner drones that were very, very strong, because when there was footage of the plane nose coming out the other side of the building, and I was like, a normal airplane, they get dented just from a bird hitting the front of the nose of a plane. It'll get a dent. Mm-hmm. But somehow on 9/11, the nose came out the other end of the building, and I was like, what was that plane made out of? And some of the footage, there's a fuel silage extra bit, but I'm thinking those planes were actually very, very heavy and equipped to cut through steel because it was not a normal plane. It was something different. So that's a theory.
I don't know if that would be like all the planes because...
No, not all just the 2 planes that hit the towers were specifically, again, this is a theory, that those planes were custom made for that event. And then on the front of the plane, in the nose, they had again, this is a theory.
Like steel-toed nose.
Steel-toed boots. But it also had a high-energy weapon so it was, as it's flying in, it's cooking the part of the building. And then also to lean into that a little bit more, there's proof online that before the collapse, there was an art installation installed inside the buildings for months on end with all kinds of boxes and stuff where the plane hit. So they were like prepping this area with an art installation coincidentally, and then the planes hit right there. And high energy weapons are a thing. So like if you're like, okay, how would you take down a building? Well, you're going to need explosives. You're going to need pillars cut, but you're also going to need planes that actually can cut through steel, and the nose came out the other side. So how are you going to pull all this off? And here's the one thing that I haven't heard anybody talk about is, and feel free to leave it in the comments, Ground Zero, during after when 9/11 happened, there's cars that are incinerated, like no tires, like a high energy weapon had vaporized a lot of the cars that area. So, and again, I'm like, if bombs are going off, but like what vaporized all these cars and where are all the people? And so now more and more questions are coming up. All these questions, like it's too many questions for me to just be like, oh yeah, it was just, Middle Eastern people. Like I don't believe it. I think it was a huge operation. Insurance was involved. There were the Rockefellers and everybody was tied into it was all planned out. Even the building was built to be collapsed. This was planned out far in advance. And now this is where it gets really, really weird. I'm just going to throw that in there. All the eyes in the whole world were all watching this one program day in, day out. Everybody was obsessed with this event. And that's when you use media strategies to manipulate the minds of humans. And so it's a perfect event to like create some sort of, I don't know what, it could be some sort of magic of some sort, but there you go. Run with that. Internet. I've been waiting. When you brought up 9/11, I was like, let's talk about it, dude. Oh my God. Yeah, it's Chris the ultimate.
It's like I say, there's just too much. I mean, I have a friend who anytime we have topics like this, when we talk, he always just says, follow the money.
Yeah, always follow
the money. And
insurance.
The insurance coverage had only recently been increased prior to the event. The guy who owned number 7, I can't for the life of me think of his name right now, but he's on the interview, which is out there, talking about the fact that they made money off the whole situation, and
just like the Titanic.
Yeah. Oh well, don't get talking about the Titanic. The Titanic was built in Ireland, so we'll avoid that one. I have a friend who truly believes that the Titanic being built by Irish people, knowing that there was going to be a boatload full of English people on it. He was the perfect hitch,
We'll go back to I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut that in there.
But no, just. It's like you say, the money aspect of it, and then what it led to. You've got to look at who was in power at the time, and obviously not necessarily the president, but the man under the president who possibly was the president in his own way was all gung ho to go to war, as soon as possible.
And the people that run the administration, there's like everyone always likes to blame the president, and you're like, that's the head of the snake. Like there's so many more people. Involved, so we can't just blame the one person.
That's just, and again, that's just one aspect of it. There's so many questions, like with the Pentagon being hit. Pentagon gets hit on the one part that's been reinforced, the one part, and then all the cameras that looked from a service station that was just outside. All the service station cameras, all their footage was seized within an hour of the incident.
I forgot about that.
Things like that, you know. And then you look at the mark in the wall. It doesn't even look like a plane.
It looks like a missile hit it.
Yeah. You know, so you know, just.
And then there's the field.
You're never going to get in.
Too.
I don't like that I'm going to say this, but I'm going to say it. I am firmly of the opinion that plane was shot down.
Yeah,
the debris was spread over such a. The idea that a plane crashes into the ground and fires debris 1.5 miles backwards, you know, just doesn't wash. You know, and again, you know, I'm sorry for anybody who lost, you know, family in that, and anybody who lost family in the wars that incident created. It's horrific, and I've a very good friend in Staten Island who was one of the first responders who went in on the pile, and I'm very, very aware. I've met firefighters and cops in New York, who were there on the day, and you know, they're suffering with illnesses now that they should not have to be suffering from. And I want to give a shout out, if I can, to John Field and the Feel Good Foundation, who do absolutely incredible work for the first responders. I'm sure you know Jon Stewart, the comedian.
Yeah, of course.
And you will remember he was part of a group that was fighting for what was called the Zadroga Bill, which was to get government funding to help these people with their illnesses. And I actually got to know John.
That's cool.
Ray Pfeiffer, who unfortunately has passed away since, was one of the firefighters. They championed the cause. That was just, those people really just, they're heroes in my mind. They're the definition of what American heroes are. And you know, my friend Sean, he's suffering with conditions that you know, I'm convinced, he's pretty much convinced now as well. You know, that he got from being on the pile, as he calls it. And
it was like lava. There was like lava flowing that day.
Yeah,
like,
you know, it's just I just have issues with the acceptance of, okay, well, we moved on.
Right.
We just move. We just move on to the next. Yeah, you know.
It was trauma for the whole world.
And that's what they bank
traumatic.
on too. That's what they bank on, is that they'll eventually move on. We won't answer the questions. They'll have all these theories, and we'll move on.
Well, you see, I do wonder about this. You know, you look back to what everybody was put through with COVID, right? Was it a test? That's the way I look at it. Was that a test?
Oh man,
you know, you have the former president of America. You know, an assassination attempt. What are we? We're not even are we a month on from that yet? Are we even 4 weeks? And it's yesterday's news. It's gone.
Well, now it's like,
because it wasn't a big deal for.
Yeah,
never mind. We're not going to get into that.
No, there's now so much news every day that like, and everybody's getting the breaking news from, and everybody's a journalist now these days, and everybody's a professional photographer. So like, it's so spread thin that like something major will happen, and then it's old news by.
This is what makes everybody right these days.
Yeah,
they have one of these, you know, and they choose their sources. They choose the information that they want to take in, and they point blankly refuse the information that they don't want to take in, and
right, because I'm an expert.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is partially our responsibility to do some research. Unfortunately, I think it was actually under Obama where there was. Please don't quote me verbatim, but there was something that was passed that Obama passed. Maybe it was within the bill. I don't know for sure, but that allows any information to come out from any news source, whether it be true or not. So I think that does jade the actual information, and then it kind of confuses the public. And then, of course, we're struggling to get the actual information.
Yeah, as long as everybody's confused, then that's good. Everybody, because if everybody works together and we're all on the same page, then we're a superpower. But
right.
like, if everybody,
but the thing too, Chris, is
keep them confused.
That's happening all over the world now. You know, I'm looking. You know, there's been some awful scenes in Ireland over the last while, and it's all built on. I'm going to use the word a nationalistic ideal, where it's, you know, all these foreigners coming into our country. Now, we're the land of 1,000 welcomes. That's been a phrase that's been used by Ireland for years. But they have all these people coming in, refugees who are just. They're literally sleeping at the side of the Royal Canal in Dublin, or the Grand Canal, I think it is, the Grand Canal, I apologise. They're given a tent, they're given, money, and they're just coming in by the shipload. It's happening in the UK. The UK is having riots now. The whole city centres are getting burnt out with people protesting about, and granted there have been incidences that have happened where a child has been attacked, or as it was in the UK, 3 children were attacked by a refugee who literally had only just landed into the country. So I understand that, but it just seems that the powers that be that should be doing a better job, they're happy to let us keep getting more and more divided.
Yeah,
exactly.
The middle class,
and that goes along exactly with what Chris is saying.
Yeah, it's one of those things, and it's just
the rich get richer and the poor get poorer.
Well, yeah, but the class divide gets wider.
That's what I'm saying. There's no middle class.
And that's where the resentment starts to kick in, and then I can remember even in Ireland, I was used to laugh. I bought I bought a brand new second-hand car. I bought a second-hand car, and my neighbour commented on it was in superb condition. Looked like it literally come from a dealer, and it was 4 years old. And in Ireland, your registration plate reflects the year that the car was made and bought in. And it was 3 or 4 years old, whatever it was. And he said, somebody's doing well in their job. And I was like, it's a second-hand fucking car. Like, what makes you think I'm living it up here? You know what I mean? I've waited for this car to depreciate so I could afford the version of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then when my father passed, he actually left me. My dad passed away in what would be 2015, and he left me a 1998 Toyota Corolla, and it was immaculate. This thing is immaculate. And when we took the decision to move over here, really, really good guy, P.O. Ennis back in Edenderry, offered to buy the car from me. And he keeps it in a garage where he doesn't take it out, only very, very, very rarely. And he's keeping it for his son, for when his son turns old enough to be able to drive properly. Because his son has said, Dad, I would like to have this car, and I'd like to keep it in memory of what Austin and his, because P.O. found a picture, like a passport-size photo of my dad afterwards. I told him what the car had meant to me. I wasn't trying to make money off the car. This thing was spotless. And I gave him the car, and every so often he takes his young lad out, and they'll take a video, and they'll say, "Hey Austin, how you doing?" And the whole lot. And I was like, that so that car was like $1,000, at that time, like, or for, at the time I handed it over. Even then, I don't even think I took $1,000. It was less. It wasn't about the money at that point. This car has had its value, but now he wants it to reach its 30-year-old age, so which would be in 4 years' time. He wants it to reach being a 30-year-old car because it falls into a vintage car category then. Right. The mileage is still like really low on it and the whole lot. And he just says the engine is like, he's had it checked. It's spotless. Everything about it.
It is a Toyota, though.
Yeah, but
it's going to be in the Rod Run next year.
But it's not the most attractive car in the world. Like looks wise, it's not aesthetics wise. It's not like what you see in Old Town here, where when the Rod Run is on, you're like, wow. How old is this thing? And like somebody will tell you, oh, this car is originally my family from 1918 or whatever. And you're like, wow, look at it. Like it looks like it was just built. So. A Toyota Corolla would not be venturing down Old Town anytime soon.
Hey, you never know.
Never know.
People like it.
As long as it's not electric.
Yeah. Oh God. Yes.
Yes, they have issues with that apparently.
Yeah.
That
story was brought to you by Toyota.
Yeah.
Toyota. Then we had to jump together. Yeah. Now, Austin, where can everybody find you online or in real life on stage? Where can everybody find you? We have your Instagram up on the big screen.
Oh, cool. Okay. Well, Austin the Irish Comic is the handle I go by on Instagram. That's kind of where I post most of my stuff these days. I do have an account on Facebook, but I don't use it anymore. Okay. I have a Twitter handle, which I don't really make much use of, again, would be Austin the Irish Comic, but I pretty much run everything through Instagram at the moment. It's the format that I like. If something else will probably come along in time, and I'll do that. But typically you'll find me in Solaris on a Monday. If I'm not doing derbies on a Tuesday, it'll be
Shamrock.
Watch out, Johnny.
Yeah.
Wednesday's the Rock Gallery over in Palm Springs, and the first Thursday of every month now there's going to be an open mic at Salute. good friend of ours, Frank, is the host there. Rocky Osborne, I believe, is the man over it all.
Yep.
He's away at the moment, I'm led to understand. And, you know, I was out there last Tuesday for it. It's on this Thursday. We obviously being part of the Empire Comedy workshops, a lot of the comics that have been coming out to Solaris that you got to meet, were all there last week to help it kick off, you know, on the Tuesday. But then he announced, so we're going to be going to the first Thursday of every month. So that's this Thursday, and after that, then I get some regular work through Melissa with her once a month shows, which are always on the last Saturday of the month in the Merc, the Old Town Theatre, across the way here. She'll sometimes give me a guest spot or what have you. So I'm trying to get up now to the point where she'll see me as a feature, because I'm getting more confident with my 10s, my 12s, and that type of stuff. So that's the next progression for my comedy in that sense. I want to get from doing 5s to doing comfortable 10s and comfortable 12s, 15s. If you have
sorry, real quick, if you have a strong like banger 3-minute, I highly recommend, if it's worth the drive. American Comedy Company in downtown San Diego.
Okay.
Is the, like, you know how I do the clock on stage?
Yes.
That was inspired by ACC, American Comedy Company. It's in a basement. It's like this really, really, like, it's always hot. It's all, and like hot meaning like the audience is on there. It's packed. It's a really strong 3-minute open mic. Cool, I think you would do well there.
Well, I went to see an Irish comic down in La Jolla in the Comedy Store, a guy called David Nichol, who, if you don't know, you should really check out. He's an absolutely hilarious guy. Really, really great story about how he got into doing comedy, which he talks about on stage. So I'm not going to ruin his specials. He's on YouTube, but we went down and I discovered, to my widening kind of experience of when you go to a venue, what you learn about what other performances they put on, that they have an open mic every week. And every week since whenever it was that they performed, I stick my name in every Tuesday.
Good.
Dream about the name being called. And I just want to say, I can't remember what the guy's name now who pulls the names out every week. But dude, if you're calling out, there's a comedian on the circuit called Austin Levins. And every
Tall
week,
guy.
I don't know him. I haven't met him, and
He's a really nice guy.
I can't wait to shake his hand.
Yeah.
But my God, that man has caused me more anxiety than, because when they pull the ticket out, he goes, "Oh, and the 12th comedian will be Austin Levins." Oh fuck, it's not me again. You know. So one of these days it's going to be Austin Levins, and I hope Austin Levins, if you're watching this or you ever hear about this, you get the anxiety that I get every week when my name gets pulled.
You should just Kanye West it and just take the mic from him. Go up there, Taylor Swift it.
But yeah, that's the Comedy Store is, you know, like one of the immediate goals. I just want to get. I was talking to Shadi actually the other night about that, and the comedy roasts that are done there and what have you. And, there's a comedian that performs, well, not regularly, but he's kind of semi-regular over in Derby's. A guy called Carlos, and I had a whole set ready to go last night if he walked in, because we roast each other without it being official.
Right.
And he might only be in the crowd, but and we've thrown some really heavy shit at each other in the last while. That some of the stuff that I can't actually put up on Instagram because I'd be afraid of you've been blocked for 2 weeks or whatever because of the content.
Right.
But it just got me into that side. I like the format of what roasting is. I like the idea that you're constricted to those 3 jokes, and you know. And I think it makes for a great 5 minutes of entertainment sometimes, just, you know, 2 guys riffing off each other because they know each other, have respect for each other, but they, you know, you can get into some really dark stuff with that. Like, and I find when I start thinking about what would I say in a comedy roast about somebody, I get into what I call my Anthony Jeselnik kind of frame of mind, where I go to some really dark places.
Yeah.
So that's something I want to explore a bit more as well, just on that front.
I know.
But yeah, so, you know, there's a lot, like we spoke about, the idea of roasts up in Solaris and stuff, and, you know, I hope it gets to that point where we can start doing that, because
we are going to be doing
I think it's going to be
September 15th is our first Crow Fights.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah.
I like it, Crow Fights, yeah.
Crow Fights, yeah. We're branding it like Apple, you know, we make it our own, but yeah, Peter's doing the first Crow Fights, I want to say, what is it called? I want to say tier system, but it's a where where it's then
Like a ladder type of thing.
oh man, I'm having a brain fart. But anyways, Mason Jar is at the end of this month. It will be the first Crow fights, and the second one will be at Solaris on a Sunday.
Cool.
And then once a month, every Sunday. And it's going to all tie into Comedy Fest for next year.
Oh, excellent.
So,
excellent.
yeah, we've got a big thing coming. So, I could see you being in the in there. Yeah.
Put my evil side up for a few minutes.
The Irish
Do
fighter.
it.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah. Make like an Irish crow or something. That'd be super cool.
Totally do it.
Yeah. Amy, where can everybody find you?
My huge Instagram at Shades of Despair is my kind of go-to, and then my website www.abyssicreveries.com.
Yeah, and then I'm Christopher Key Tyler. You can find me on all social platforms minus Snapchat. And we enjoyed. Thank you for everything.
Thank you for being here.
I think this is our record of a 90-minute podcast.
I told you it would go long.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, there's a lot. The comedy or the KAWspiracy. That's a lot. We unpacked a lot.
Yeah.
So, but it was a lot of fun. So
Cool, man. Well, thanks for having me.
We look forward to seeing you at Solaris and the future shows, and you have a very bright future ahead of you.
Thank you.
And don't fall for any of that ageist bullshit that's out there where people are like, "Oh, you're too old to fucking do it." Like, dude, no, comedy's comedy. It works for everybody. I see little kids do it to older people. It doesn't matter what age you are. Just have fun doing what you do and make people happy and make yourself be happy, making others happy. That's the way to go. But anyways, thank you for everything, and we will see you guys next time. Take it easy. Bye-bye.